Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this special webcast. This is Brett Owens from Lead Dino, our marketing director and co-founder. Hopefully you got my email newsletter yesterday. One of the most popular questions we get from our own customers this time of year is whether or not you potentially owe the IRS some 1099 forms for your affiliate and influencer payments from the year before. So this year we have a special guest to help guide us through. So I've got my our friend, colleague, and our own CPA here, Burt Douglass, going to take you through the ins and outs of 1099. So tell you everything that you need to know as you think about these in the next month or so. So with that, I'm going to introduce Burt, and away we go.
Hey, thank you, Brett. Happy New Year, everybody, and I'm glad that you could attend. We're going to go through this pretty quickly, but you will know all of the key points in issuing 1099 miscellaneous forms by the end. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Our agenda today, I'm going to be going over the purpose of this form so you understand a little bit more why the government is requesting this. I'll go over the typical recipients who should be receiving it, the line-by-line detail on the form itself, filing requirements, penalties, and then Brett and I also discussed about including a brief overview of the new Tax Reform Act. You're probably hearing a lot about that right now. So I just want to go over some highlights that are affecting our individual and business clients. So I'll spend a couple of minutes at the end on that. As you have questions, please type them in. We'll be looking at the question board, and I'll either try to answer them currently, or I'll hold certain questions to the end, if that's okay. So the purpose of the 1099 miscellaneous form, again, you're probably reading or hearing a lot about this. It is a requirement. The penalties are serious for not filing these with the IRS, but it is required for non-employee compensation for services. And I want to stop a minute and emphasize for services. You do not have to issue these if you're buying product or if you're buying supplies or materials. It's strictly for services. So if you have individuals or affiliate partnerships that you are paying money to, they will need to get a 1099 miscellaneous if you pay them over $600 in a calendar year. And then I'm also going to show you how you obtain the recipient's information that is gathered on a Form W-9, and I'll also show you that in just a second. But we recommend that all of our clients request that Form W-9 right up front, because once you pass that $600 threshold, and that's when the requirement kicks in, many times it's difficult to go back and get the W-9 after you realize that you've exceeded the $600 that you've paid the recipient. So I just recommend that you get that right up front. This is the W-9. You should be sending this to all of your affiliates or anybody that you're paying services to. And you can see right here, they will complete whether or not they're an individual, sole proprietor, C Corp, S Corp, partnership, or a trust. If they are a C corporation or an S corporation, you do not need to send them a 1099. So we have a lot of thresholds that we have to go through, but that is one of the key thresholds. Make sure that they give you either their social security number, that's right down here, or their federal ID number, which is right in this section. And then all you have to do is keep that on file, and you'll use this at the end of the year when you prepare their 1099s. Okay, the recipients, and this is where we really need to discern who qualifies to receive one and who doesn't. Again, it's an independent contractor, consultant, or your affiliate partner. And partner is misspelled on this, and I just saw that, so I apologize.
Affiliate's right, though.
Affiliate's right, and everything else is right. Your attorney, your IT support, any handyman. Also keep in mind that by law, you are required to issue one if you pay a landlord for rents, or if you rent your equipment or any other items, they must receive a 1099, and I'll review with you on the form where that information goes. Again, it's not needed when purchasing product, supplies, or goods. So let's say that you bought a laptop computer from somebody and it was over $600, you do not need to issue them a 1099. And here is the form. You'll notice that I did download the 2018. I think the IRS has finally approved this. As you all know, we're in furlough right now, so it is a little difficult to get updated forms from the IRS, but this is the 1099 miscellaneous as we know what it's going to look like. So if you pay somebody rents, whether for a building, an office, or equipment, that information gets put on box 1. And then if you have payments to your affiliates, to consultants for services, that goes under box 7, non-employee compensation. You'll notice that there's a bunch of other boxes here. I'm not going to go into them because they're not going to pertain to 99.9% of you, but you want to focus in on rents and box 7, non-employee compensation. Let me go also over the format. You'll notice here this is payer's name. That is your name. That is your business. That you need to include your address, postal code, telephone number, and then under here, see this, it says payer's TIN. It's taxpayer identification number. That is your business's number. Please don't put your social security number in there. I have a lot of e-commerce clients that don't get a federal ID number, and they really should. And they use their social security number on this. Well, what happens is now your social security number is out there in the ether. Thank you. The E word, the ether. And this is where a lot of people have lost their identity, and they have people stealing their identity. So don't use your social security number. Get a federal ID number and put that in there. This is the recipient's TIN. So your affiliate partner's federal ID number or social security number will go here. The recipient's name, address, city, state, all of that, and then complete box 1 or box 7. Again, if it's an affiliate partner, complete the box 7. Okay, and again, we just kind of reviewed the line-by-line detail. You're going to receive a copy of this PowerPoint slide deck, but this just outlines you must include the payer's information, identification numbers. This is why I highly suggest that you obtain that W-9 from the person, because that form will encapsulate everything that you need to include on the 1099. Okay, reminder, box 1 is rents. I do have a couple of my clients that pay royalties. Those are outside of affiliate partner payments. If you have something like that, give me a call and I'll kind of walk you through it. Box 3, other income. I have a couple of the e-commerce clients that give prizes. If you do give a prize or some kind of compensation other than your non-employee compensation, that would go under box 3. And then box 7 is your non-employee compensation. Examples of non-employee compensation would be professional services, referrals, non-employee entertainers, directors, things like that. And again, box 14 is gross proceeds paid to an attorney. I don't know why, but the IRS, they do not trust attorneys, Brett, and they always want to know how much money has always been paid to attorneys so they can track that. So even if the attorney is incorporated, this is the only exception. If the attorney is incorporated, you still have to send them a 1099. So that's just something to keep in mind. Again, if you have any questions about this, shoot me an email or give me a call and I can walk you through this.
Can't figure out why that is, Burt, but thanks.
About the attorneys?
Thanks for that. Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, nobody trusts the attorneys.
And quick note to everyone, so we will get you contact info, follow-up info, open it up for questions as well at the end. If you want to type them in now, you're more than welcome to. We'll get to them in a few minutes. There should be a little question mark at the top of whatever screen you're looking at. So if you're on your computer, your iPad, even your phone, should be a little question mark. If you hit that, type in anything on your mind, and we'll get to it in a few minutes for you as Burt wraps up the not only 1099 portion, but then also that 2018 Tax Reform Act look for you here.
Cool. Thanks, Brett. Okay, filing requirements. So I have a lot of questions on if when all of these forms are due. So the recipient, your affiliate partner or the person providing services for your entity, they must receive their 1099 by January 31st. Now, it's due January 31st. If you drop it in the mail and it's date stamped, post date stamped January 31st, you're good. So this obviously would be January 31st, 2019 for the 2018 forms. Now we have a couple of filing dates that you have to keep in mind with the IRS. If you have non-employee compensation, that's box 7, you must either e-file or paper file by January 31st to the IRS. If there is no non-employee compensation, in other words, there's rents, prizes, things like that, you must paper file by January 31st. If you e-file online, they do give you a delayed date up until March 31st to e-file. There's a lot of software applications out there that you can sign up for and e-file all of your 1099 miscellaneous. Also, if you're using QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, they'll be able to e-file all of your 1099 miscellaneous forms for you. So all of our clients that use QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, that's how they file their 1099s. Okay, what to file? So you have 2 different forms that have to be submitted. If you're doing this manually, you're going to have to manually complete these. If you're e-filing it, typically the e-filing software will complete this other transmittal form, also called a 1096. It'll complete that automatically. If you were manually paper filing these forms, then you will need to get a red Form 1096 and complete it. What does the 1096 look like? And again, this is just a transmittal. So you would complete this 1096 and you attach it with all the 1099s before you mail it to the IRS. So all of your information, you're the filer, all of that information gets input here. You would then indicate your name or whoever you want to be contacted if the IRS has any questions, a telephone number, email, and then you're going to include your employer identification number. Again, there's space for social security number. Please don't use your social security number because it gets out there in the ether.
Don't put it in the ether, everyone.
Don't put it in the ether. That's how you get your identity stolen. Indicate how many forms are attached here. And then you'll notice down here, there's all sorts of forms that you can select. The one that you're going to be selecting is right here under 1099 miscellaneous. Okay, you'll sign it, date it. Please make sure this form is red. If you download it from the IRS's website and you print it on black paper or black ink, believe it or not, it will be rejected and they will send it back to you. So they're kind of finicky about their red forms. That's why I strongly encourage you to go ahead and file this through your e-file software with QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. Record keeping. You want to keep these documents and all of your bank accounts to document how much you paid your vendors or affiliate partners 3 years from the date of the return. So let's say that you filed the return on January 31st of 2019, 20, 21, 22. You can actually destroy everything on February 1st of 2022. The requirement is 4 years from the due date if there is a backup withholding requirement. And I'm not going to get into that because most of your affiliate partners are not going to require any mandatory withholding on the payments. But if you have somebody that you think may be subject to that, go ahead and let me know and I'll walk you through the mandatory withholding. Penalties. This is serious. It used to be the IRS would charge you $50 for every 1099 that you didn't file. And I had a lot of business owners that would just say, $50. It's going to cost more to prepare the forms. I'll just go ahead and pay the penalty. Well, now every year, the IRS increases these penalties more and more, and we're up to $530 per recipient. There is no limitation there. I had a very difficult e-commerce client a couple of years ago, and they had about 20 affiliate partners, and the IRS was going to move forward and charge them the penalty. And back then, I think it was $400 per recipient. And it was a battle to finally convince the IRS not to assess the penalty. So I say just complete them at $530 a pop. You do not want to get stuck with that. And the IRS is getting very strict about this. They are no longer becoming lenient. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so if you have any questions about filing 1099 miscellaneous, please post them, send them to Brett, send them to me, and we'll be able to address them for you. I'm going to move into the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. This is the new Tax Reform Act that everybody's talking about. And I'm just going to point out most of the new rules go into effect January 1 of 2018. So it is going to affect your 2018 tax filings. Notable change. So I'm going to go over a couple of items that affect you individually. Then I'm going to get into the real meat of the matter, which is a new tax code section that will reduce your tax liability by about 20%. But let's go over these notable changes for individuals. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, also known as TCJA, changed a couple of our itemized deductions. First of all, the state and local tax, which is also referred to as SALT, the state and local tax deduction has been reduced. So even if your overall taxes, state taxes, equal $12,000 in 2018, you're limited to deducting only $10,000. Now, this really affects our businesses in California, New Jersey, New York, the high income tax states. If you live in Texas or Wyoming, Washington, Nevada, you're still probably going to be able to deduct your state and local taxes there. Limit on mortgage interest. Just be aware, if you bought a home in 2018 and have a new mortgage on it, you might be limited on the amount of interest that you can deduct. Also, a big item, home equity lines of credit are no longer deductible. Now, there's a couple of exceptions to this. If you do an improvement on your home, or I have a lot of e-commerce clients that borrow on their home, they get a home equity line of credit, and then they use that for their business. We can still deduct it, but there are certain elections and additional filings that we have to do in order for you to deduct that interest. Also, remember, each of us got a $4,000 dependent deduction on our return. So let's say that you were married and you had one child, you would qualify for 3 exemption deductions. And I think in 2017, each exemption deduction was about $4,050. Well, it terminated it. So the new Tax Reform Act actually deleted any of those exemption deductions. So don't worry about that as you move forward, since you're not going to be receiving a deduction. What they have done, and I'm just going to mention this very quickly, depending upon the age of your dependent, if you have children, depending upon the age and the amount of your income, you now may be receiving a credit for your dependents, and that's anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 per dependent. But again, there's a lot of requirements, restrictions in order to qualify for those credits. Here's the big one. This is the most talked about deduction that we've seen in my industry for probably 33 years. This will affect all of you. Section 199A is the flow-through deduction. So depending on meeting various requirements, and from speaking with Brett, all of your businesses will qualify for this. I just have to worry about attorneys, actuaries, doctors, dentists. Sometimes they don't meet the requirement for the 20% deduction, but you will. Depending upon your business, how it is formed, is it a partnership, is it an S corporation, you can now take a 20% deduction of your business income as a special deduction on your return, individual return. So here's an example. Let's say your business net income is $50,000. That's net income after expenses. You may qualify for a $10,000 deduction on your individual tax return. So don't let that slip by. That is a big change this year, and you want to take advantage of it. There are many requirements to qualify for the flow-through deduction, that 20%. One of them, and I'm not going to drill down too deep on this area, but one of them is that you generally have to have wages. So let's say that you're a partnership. That's a really good example. And you didn't pay any wages because you have two partners. We may run into some restrictions there as far as the full 20% deduction being applied on your individual tax return. But again, there's a lot of requirements, a lot of restrictions, but don't forget to look at that as you're preparing your 2018 tax returns. That's a big deduction. It also changed the requirements for reporting if you hold inventory. And Brett and I have talked about this. I have a lot of e-commerce clients. Some hold inventory, others don't. But whether or not you hold inventory, they've actually changed the rules. So before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, if you had inventory, you may have been forced into reporting all of your revenue on the accrual method, accrual basis. So the new Tax Reform Act came out and they said, look, if you're under $5 million of gross revenues, now you may be able to elect the cash basis of reporting, and that is much more favorable for business owners. So they now allow that even if you have inventory. But some of my e-commerce businesses just do drop shipping, so they really don't take possession of their inventory. It comes directly from either another supply chain provider or a channel partner or somebody else.
So no report if you're drop ship?
Nope, none. Okay, so I am done, and we have one question. I'm going to have Brett help me read that question. There it goes. Okay. When should you generate a 1099? Okay, so all of the information that is put on a 1099 is based on a calendar year. So you actually have to run the report from January 1, in this case of 2018, up through December 31st of 2018. And it's based on the checks or cash, if you're paying cash. I don't like that. But based on checks or cash that are paid to your affiliates or the service providers, you would add all of those amounts up, and then you must file in January of the next year. Again, what is the amount? And I don't know exactly what you mean by amount.
Like, are we talking, I think, and I believe this is from Jessica. So are we counting, so if we pay less than 600 is often the number that I hear. So if we pay less than 600.
Nope. No filing, no filing.
So only above 600.
Only above 600. And I think, okay, Jessica just said,
so
is there
600
a amount? So 600 is the thing. Now here's a little tidbit for you. Believe it or not, the IRS changed the rules in 2011 if you pay your affiliates by credit card, not by check, not by cash, credit card, you do not have to file a 1099 miscellaneous. Okay, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That just eliminates a lot of additional paperwork for you guys. Here's the problem though, and I had a client, e-commerce client, business owner, and he actually did some payments by credit card, other payments by check. That gets a little goofy at that point, because if you're using QuickBooks, QuickBooks only gives you one total, the total amount that you paid that affiliate partner or the service provider. It gets a little dicey. Somebody asked, what if we pay via PayPal? The IRS regulations actually equate PayPal to a credit card. So your question is, what if we use PayPal? If you use PayPal 100% of the time to pay your affiliates or service providers, you do not have to pay or file the 1099 miscellaneous form. So if you're able to, I would pay with credit card. But whenever you issue a check or pay with cash, I have some people that are still paying with cash, especially a lot of our cutting edge businesses here in California that are coming up. They're totally cash based, and I'm talking about marijuana and those types of facilities. Again, if you have that kind of a business and you are receiving cash, you must file a 1099 miscellaneous for those vendors that you pay cash to. Brett?
So to recap that from a Lead Dino user perspective, so you're in good shape if you're using the Pay via PayPal shortcut within the app or PayPal Mass Pay. So those are going to be our most popular ways to pay. According to Burt here, you're going to be in good shape as far as the 1099 requirement is concerned, even if you're going above that $600 yearly threshold that we talked about. The case in which you're going to have to prep a 1099 is going to be if you're cutting a check. So that's going to be the manual pay button that we have. So if you're still paying certain affiliates by check or you're doing something else, I would assume Coinbase might be something else. So
different ways. Bitcoin, very good.
So different ways to do it there. In those cases, you're going to have to do the old 1099. So yes, to reiterate on the follow-up question, I paid all my this one's from Jesse. I paid all my affiliates via PayPal. I do not need to issue a 1099. How do I account for commissions paid for the year? So I assume that this we're looking at within the QuickBooks type of framework then. So if he's paying via PayPal, how are we going to go ahead and what are we filing those? I'm assuming we're talking QuickBooks. Correct me if I'm wrong here. How's that going to get into the ledger? How are we categorizing those payments?
Okay, and just so that I'm clear, you're talking about the PayPal payment for the affiliate.
Yeah, right. So we're doing, which is basically what we do on our books. So
yeah.
We pay our own affiliates via PayPal, and then I myself categorize it to commission payments typically.
That's fine.
As a categorization.
Yeah, I mean, whatever category you want to expense that to in your QuickBooks that makes sense to you guys, yeah, that's fine. It could be to commissions, affiliate payments. I really don't care. But the most important thing is if you're paying them with PayPal or credit card, you don't have to worry about the 1099 filing requirements. But just be careful because, again, I have clients that do both. They pay sometimes using a credit card or PayPal and sometimes with a check or cash. So just be consistent there.
Cool. Follow-up question from Tony. I came in late. Is this going to be recorded? So we did hit the record button as we went. All things go well, we'll get it up onto our YouTube channel. We'll get you an email later with a link to that recording. So if you're looking for that, say tomorrow, and you didn't see something yet, any of the emails from me, brett@leaddino.com, is going to go back to me, and we can get you a link to that. We'll also do this again in a couple of weeks. So if you think of questions between now and then, you're welcome to hop on our second and final session. So that's going to be January 17th, same time. So we'll do it 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you had so much fun today, you want to run it back, that is cool with us. We would love to have you as well. For follow-up questions for Burt and his team, he can take them. We got the address up here, but it's going to be burtd at yourcpateam.com. Jen's a good resource also, so Jennifer at yourcpateam.com. That is their URL as well, yourcpateam.com. You can give them a call, send them an email, mention that you're on the webcast today. They can give you a hand with any specific questions that you have. Anything else on the follow-up question side, Burt?
Yeah, the only thing I'd probably add is you may have a lot of questions about the Tax Reform Act. Again, I'm kind of getting off track here, Brett, but I am getting a lot of questions from my e-commerce businesses. What do all of the new rules? Again, there's a lot of new items that benefit business owners. There's new deductions, new credits. It's really exciting. I've been doing this gig for a long time, and I haven't seen this many changes in the tax reform or in the tax code since 1985. So this is really exciting for us who work with business owners, because there's a lot that we can actually do for our clients now as far as carving out all of these additional deductions and credits. So I want to thank everybody for attending. And like Brett said, if you want to have another shot at this and sit in on this riveting presentation, we are going to do it in 2 more weeks on Thursday at 11. So thank you, Brett. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for all of the insights and advice. I hope it was helpful to everyone joining. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Great weekend ahead. As always, let us know if you have any questions. And from a Lead Dino perspective, we are online all the time. So leaddino.com, you can find us live chat, phone, email. We can get you connected with Burt on the follow-up as well there. So thanks again, everyone. I hope to talk to you soon.
Bye. Okay. So that was how many?